3 days ago, Ashley Flynn was murdered in her Tip City home. Tonight, police announced that they have made an arrest in connection to her death.
Police said this evening that Ashley's husband, 39-year-old Caleb Flynn, is in jail and charged in connection with her
Welcome to the True Crime Cinema. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you're watching from. It was supposed to be a quiet night. Just another cold February night in Maplewood, a small, peaceful town in the heart of Tennessee. The kind of town where people know their neighbors by name, where kids ride bikes in the street and parents wave from the porch. Nobody expected that night to change everything. At around 2:30 in the morning on February 16th, 2026, emergency services received a frantic 911 call from a home on Birchwood Lane. The man on the phone, his voice shaking, told the dispatcher that someone had broken into his house, that an intruder had come in and shot his wife. Police arrived quickly. They moved through the front door, flashlights cutting through the darkness. And there, in the bedroom, they found her. Her name was Mia Carlisle. She was 37 years old. She was a wife, a mother, a woman who showed up every single day for the children in her community. And she was gone. The man who had made that 911 call was her husband, 39-year-old Nathan Carlisle. He was still there when the officers arrived. He was the one who had called for help. He was the one who told them a stranger had done this. But here's the thing about stories. The version someone tells you first isn't always the whole truth. For the first few hours, police treated this like what it appeared to be, a home invasion gone horribly wrong. They locked down the neighborhood. They searched for an intruder. They tried to make sense of the chaos. But as the hours passed and detectives began to look closer at the scene, at the evidence, at the details that didn't quite add up, the story Nathan told started to fall apart. And the real story, the one hiding underneath, began to surface. This is the story of Mia Carlisle, of who she was, of what happened to her, and of the long, painful road to answers that her family, her community, and the world deserve. Before we go any further, I need you to understand who Mia Carlisle was. Because in cases like this, it's easy to get lost in the crime, in the investigation, in the legal details, and forget that at the center of all of it is a real human being who mattered deeply to the people around her. Mia worked as a substitute teacher and a middle school volleyball coach at Maplewood Middle School. Every week, she walked into classrooms and gymnasiums and gave her time, her energy, and her heart to young people who needed her. The kids on her volleyball team didn't just see her as a coach, they saw her as someone who believed in them. Someone who pushed them to be better, not just on the court, but in life. Teachers and staff who worked alongside Mia described her as warm, dependable, and deeply committed. She showed up. That might sound simple, but for anyone who's ever had a mentor or a teacher who truly showed up for them, you know how rare and precious that is. At home, Mia was a mother to 2 little girls. That night, when everything happened, both of her daughters were asleep in their rooms. They didn't wake up. They were safe physically. But no child should ever have to face what those 2 girls will carry for the rest of their lives. After Mia's passing, people from all over the community came together. A fundraiser was started almost immediately to help support her daughters. Neighbors, parents of her students, people who had only met her once, they all came forward because of the impact she had left on them. Mia Carlisle was not just a victim in a police report.
She was someone people loved, someone people counted on.
And her loss left a wound in Maplewood that will take a very long time to heal. When you hear the rest of the story, and it gets harder from here, I want you to hold on to that image of her. The coach blowing her whistle. The teacher writing on a whiteboard. The mom tucking her girls in at night. That's who we're talking about. That's who deserves justice. Now, let's talk about Nathan Carlisle. He was 39 years old, and for a brief moment years ago, he had been in the public eye. He had appeared on a well-known national singing competition, one of those shows where ordinary people stand on a big stage and sing their hearts out hoping to change their lives. During his time on that show, Nathan spoke openly about his personal life. He talked about his faith.
He talked about his family.
And he talked about his wife, about how much she meant to him, about how she was the steady ground beneath his feet. After the show, he went back to a quieter life. He worked in music ministry for a while, leading worship at a church, guiding people through songs and prayer on Sunday mornings. He later moved into sales and worked with a family business. From the outside, he was a man who had found his place: faith, family, community. But on the night of February 16, 2026, Nathan called 911 and told police that a stranger had broken into their home on Birchwood Lane and shot Mia. He described hearing sounds, seeing evidence of forced entry, and not knowing whether the intruder was still inside. It was a terrifying story, and at first, police had to take it seriously. They searched the house. They looked for an intruder. They checked the garage door that had been left open, which Nathan pointed to as evidence of the break-in. They treated the scene as an active threat. But then the detectives got to work. Before we get too deep, remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you find value in these discussions. They started pulling at the threads. The 911 call itself, the tone, the details, what was said, and what wasn't. The physical evidence in the home, where things were, how they were positioned, whether any of it made sense for a real burglary. The shell casings found near the bed. The way the scene was arranged. And slowly, painfully, the picture they were building looked less and less like a home invasion, and more like something that had been set up to look like one. Investigators didn't rush. They were careful. They went through everything: the forensic evidence, the ballistics, the physical layout of the home, the 911 audio. They consulted with multiple agencies. They looked at the electronic trail. They considered every possible explanation. And after 3 days, 3 long, heavy days, they had enough. On February 19, 2026, Nathan Carlisle was arrested. He was taken into custody on charges of murder, 2 counts of felonious assault with a deadly weapon, and 2 counts of tampering with evidence. Let that sink in for a moment. Tampering with evidence. That means investigators believe someone had deliberately tried to manipulate what was found at that scene. That someone had tried to make it look like something it wasn't. The crime scene, investigators concluded, showed signs of staging, of being arranged to mislead, to misdirect, to point the blame somewhere else. Nathan appeared in court shortly after his arrest. He pleaded not guilty to all of the charges. His bond was set at $2 million. When given the chance to speak, he said he posed no danger and that he wanted to be there for his children. His defense attorney pushed back on the speed of the investigation, suggesting that rushing to arrest a grieving spouse was risky and could lead to mistakes. And I want to be fair here because that is how the legal system works. Nathan Carlisle has not been convicted. He is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. His attorney has every right to raise those questions, and the prosecution must prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. But the weight of what has been documented, the forensic inconsistencies, the staged evidence, the shifting details, it hangs heavy over everything. And for Mia's family, waiting for answers while the legal process moves forward must feel unbearable. Mia's relatives released a statement asking for privacy and expressing their trust in the authorities. They are leaning on each other. They are trying to hold it together for the sake of those 2 little girls.
There is still so much we don't know.
As of now, investigators have not officially released a motive. The full forensic and autopsy reports have not been made public. Any statements from potential witnesses, including, heartbreakingly, the couple's 2 daughters, remain sealed and protected. Electronic records, devices, and personal communications are still being analyzed. A preliminary hearing is expected soon, where a court will decide whether enough evidence exists to move this case toward trial. If it does go to trial, we'll hear from forensic experts, law enforcement witnesses, and whatever other evidence the prosecution and defense bring forward. It will be a long road. These things always are. But here's why I think this story matters beyond just the facts of what happened on Birchwood Lane. It matters because Mia Carlisle was a woman living what looked like an ordinary life, a life full of purpose and love and service, and she is gone. It matters because her daughters have to grow up carrying something no child should have to carry. It matters because the community of Maplewood, the school, the volleyball team, the neighbors, they are all grieving someone real. And it matters because stories like this remind us that sometimes the most dangerous place for a person can be inside their own home. That violence doesn't always come from strangers in the dark. Sometimes it comes from somewhere much closer. And that truth is one of the hardest things in the world to sit with. We owe it to Mia to keep paying attention, to follow this case as it unfolds, to not let her name become just another headline that scrolls by and fades. She was a coach who believed in her players, a teacher who showed up, a mother who loved her children. She deserved better. And the least we can do now, the very least, is make sure her story is told honestly, carefully, and with the weight it deserves. Rest in peace, Mia. The people who loved you haven't stopped fighting for you. And neither have we. Thanks for your watching. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to the True Crime Cinema for meaningful stories that inspire and teach life lessons.